Jason Wilcox weeks away from joining Manchester United. Julian Ward could be joining him. INEOS have a big decision to make. Two sackings, step down, have taken place in Murtough and Arnold. And that is a statement from INEOS making changes ahead of the summer. What is the latest on Dan Ashworth, and has Mason Greenwood confirmed his exit, among many other stories? And Varan, Casemiro, Andre, Brazilian talent from Fluminense, being linked to United again, could be a shock move there. Technical midfielder, and what do we lack? Technicality and athleticism. He ticks those boxes, and some statements from the Glazers, from Ratcliffe, and more. So please do hit that like button. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new, and let's dive into the news in today's show. Now, I'm sure you're aware of the John Murtough news, unless you've been living under a rock, but it was obviously broken today, and I want to get through this quickly so I can get to the other stories that have come out just now. It was said, breaking: Manchester United football director John Murtough has stepped down from his post and will leave the club this week after more than 10 years of service, as INEOS-led restructure of sporting operations at Old Trafford continues, and that Manchester United are hoping that Jason Wilcox will start in the coming weeks, provided an agreement can be reached with Southampton on compensation. It's believed that it will be the case. It was then said that Manchester United hope Jason Wilcox will start his role as technical director before the season ends. So even if Dan Ashworth is delayed, and we're going to touch upon that later in the show, we could have Omar Brada, Jason Wilcox in place, and potentially even Julian Ward. We're going to get into that news in a second. He said Darren Fletcher remains as technical director at present, but Man United want him to stay under an alternative title. Now, going back quickly talking to Fletcher, Darren Fletcher is not a technical director, and he hasn't been at United the last year or so. He's just got that title. Darren Fletcher's been doing quite good work with the academy and in and around the club. He doesn't do what a technical director does. We're just giving him a name of a different role, basically. So I don't have really an issue with Darren Fletcher staying, because I think he'll just be involved in the academy and more of the coaching side rather than behind the scenes. But if we go back to the breaking news story, obviously Murtough has stepped down, probably essentially had to step down or would have been sacked, a bit like Arnold, and he will leave United. Now, obviously, Murtough was probably put in a job that he didn't have the qualifications to do. I want to say one thing about John Murtough. He's done good work with the academy. John Murtough, before he got promoted into this sporting director role, had done good work at United in the academy. I just think he got promoted into a role which he didn't have the capabilities to do, but the club didn't want to bring anyone new in because the Glazers were lazy, so they promoted Murtough. So while Murtough wasn't good at his job, he cared a lot more than Woodward and Judge. Murtough and Arnold cared a lot more than Woodward and Judge. They just weren't good enough. They weren't good enough. They were big. They got put in that role. They weren't going to say no because the Glazers trusted them. They weren't like Woodward, where they were disgraced to the football club. He was good in his role before he got promoted to a job he didn't have the capabilities to do, because INEOS want to hire the best in class, pay a bit of money, do the business right, because they don't want a club that's about making money. They want a club that's about success on the pitch. The Glazers wanted to make money. So I will say that for Murtough as well. I feel a little sorry for Murtough in the sense he was promoted beyond his experience and ability without a clear goal or prerogative. Glad to see they're keeping Dazzler, and I agree with that. I've criticised a lot of what John Murtough has done, and I will. The recruitment the last few years has not been good, and I will criticise Murtough and Arnold for sure. But you also have to look at that and say they were basically just given that job by the Glazers, even though they didn't have the experience and capabilities for that job. They were literally given by that job, and they had no communication. Now, one thing that's been highlighted massively in I think it was Laurie Whitwell's report maybe 2 months ago, was that when Brailsford came to United, when Brailsford came to Manchester United, he did this big review of Manchester United and all things going on at Manchester United, and he couldn't believe the lack of communication to Murtough and Arnold from those above. He couldn't believe that basically Murtough and Arnold haven't been given a goal or a vision, and they don't know the exact titles of their role or what their exact role was. There wasn't like a final decision maker. Sometimes it was Murtough, sometimes it was Arnold, sometimes it was this person, and there was no one above them giving them, this is what you do, this is what you do, laying out their roles and laying out the vision and the aims of United. There was none of that. So while Murtough and Arnold wasn't good, above it there was no communication and none of that. So luckily now, Brailsford, Blanc, Ratcliffe, as we can already see, they are more communicated with the club. They're constantly at games. They're constantly communicating with staff and players. They're way more involved at the club. They will bring back that communication, so there will be a much nicer environment for Omar Barada, Dan Ashworth, and Jason Wilcox to work in. INEOS's priority, and Ratcliffe said that, is their number one priority is changing the environment at Manchester United, restoring the environment at United, because it's an environment the managers can't thrive in. It's an environment that maybe Dan Ashworth wouldn't be able to thrive in 2 years ago, having to be a yes man to the Glazers and having no communication. Because you can bring in Dan Ashworth, you can bring in Omar Barada, but if you've got that environment of no communication or vision at the top, it makes their job harder. So yeah, Murtough and Arnold needed to go. It was a job too much for them, and I think it's a statement that INEOS are getting rid of them and bringing people in. But I always say the environment made for them wasn't good enough, and they were promoted beyond their means. But I think Murtough did some good stuff further down at the club. I will say that as well. I'm glad Murtough's gone. He's actually worse than Woodward. The Anthony deal, the Mount deal, the Casemiro deals are all the same. I wouldn't say he's worse than Woodward. I just think that he was. I'll say this: his intentions were better than Woodward. Woodward literally came out in an interview and said, "Man United be playing well to make money. We need to make money. That's the aim." Murtough wanted Man United to succeed. He just wasn't good enough at his job. You know, the kid that tries that just doesn't get it. Like, some kids will just get maths and they'll just bosh, easy. And some kids will really try and they won't get maths. And Murtough was like that when it came to transfers. He got Anthony because he wanted to back Ten Hag and he knew that Ten Hag wanted Anthony. He got Mount because he wanted to back Ten Hag and he knew that Ten Hag wanted Mount. And he was like, I'm going to back the manager and going to get what the manager wants. That's the best way to succeed. And I get it from that sentence, but he didn't listen to the scouts saying that Anthony's not worth more than £25 million. And he didn't have the football brain and recruitment brain, and we didn't have the recruitment people in there to help him to say, look at this winger, I don't know, he's £30 million. If Anthony goes over £40 million, let's get this winger for £30 million because he's in our budget. That's how I see it. He wasn't good enough at his job, for sure, and the recruitment's been shocking, the money spent's been shocking, 100%. But I think he really tried to make Ten Hag successful. I mean, he was out there in Barcelona, he just failed. Do you know what I mean? He just failed, and they're gone. Murtough has gone, Arnold has gone, because at the end of the day, we can't have people that are almost apprentice. I almost see Murtough and I almost see Arnold as an apprentice. They were failing on the job, they were learning on the job. No, we need the best in class that are ready now. We need the Murtough. We need them. We need the Ashworths, the Paul Mitchells, the Dougie Friedmans, not the Murtoughs. Not someone, he did a good job with the academy, so we're going to just promote him into this role. No, we need the best in class. And that is INEOS' statement. And that is what INEOS is doing. INEOS are going out there and saying, look, we're going to go out there and we're going to get the best in class as well. And Murtough obviously didn't replace Woodward and stuff, but I'm just saying, like, Murtough, obviously you can't completely compare them, but I think Murtough's intentions were good. I just think he was out of his depth. I generally do, and maybe that's just me being nice because I'm feeling nice, but yeah, he thought doing the job was whatever the coach told him to do, and yeah, I'd say that's the way of sum it up as well. That you should be surprised there's a lot of people out there better for the job. 100%. Man United are going out there to get the best in class. So let's get into some further info. It was said by Ben Jacobs that it was a mutual agreement that now is the right time for Murtough to step aside. I think it was basically INEOS sort of said to Murtough, and as they said to Arnold, this is the plan, this is who we're going to bring in, this is who we're going to replace. Basically, I think they mutually agreed to leave, but it was kind of basically you're going to get sacked if you don't leave, let's be honest. But they said it's a mutual agreement. It's now the right time for Murtough to step aside. Aim is to bring in Ashworth as sporting director and Jason Wilcox as technical director, and Man United want Darren Fletcher to stay in a new title. I'm sure Fletcher will do well with the academy. It was said that Sir Dave Brailsford is providing board-level oversight as it stands. Say today management will be led by existing football leadership team, including Andy Boyle, Deputy Football Director, Matt Hargreaves, Director of Player Negotiations, and David Harrison, Director of Football Operations, and Nick Cox, Academy Director. They're overseeing the whole board level, and there's going to be big changes happening there. Hopefully Dan Ashworth will be in this summer, but it's not really known. In terms of statements, Jim Ratcliffe said about John Murtough, we want to thank John Murtough for his loyal service over the many years and his support and integrity during this period of transition. He leaves with our best wishes for the future. And Joel Glazer said, I don't know why Joel Glazer always gives statements when something happens. Like you're involved, mate. Like you're involved. You're just sitting in your Florida mansion with your dividends. You don't know anything, and then all of a sudden, I've got to write a statement. I bet he doesn't even write his statement. I bet he gets someone at the club to write a statement for him. I bet he's that lazy. But Joel Glazer said, Joel, sorry, I just don't like saying the word Glazer. Joel Glazer said, after 11 years of tireless work for the club, John Murtough has mutually agreed with us that now is the right time to step aside and allow new football leadership structure to be put in place. He will always be welcome back at United, a friend of the club. There it is. There's my water bottle. So that was the statements that came out by Manchester United and the club on the situation. We will talk about games and stuff in a second. Steve says, on paper, Man United fixture's not the hardest. Got 2 home games in a row, Sheffield United and Burnley, 2 games that you should beat. Yeah, if we do not get 6 points versus Sheffield United and Burnley at home, I think I will lose my mind. Joel out as well. Do you know what? Murtough going, we kind of knew it was going to happen. I think I'd said that in a live stream 2 weeks ago that Murtough will go within the next month. We kind of knew that was happening. And then it's got broke today by Ornstein and Whitwell, very good journalists. But do you know what news I want to hear? Do you know what news I want to hear more than anything? I want Man United to release a statement to say Joe and Avram Glazer have completely and utterly effed off. Adios, bye-bye, full sale happening. That's the statement we want to see. When will that happen? I'm not sure. There's a feeling that maybe in 3 years, INEOS will fully buy the club. Ratcliffe wouldn't have bought 25% if he didn't think he was going to be able to buy the full club. I don't know. That's the questions I want answers to. I want a statement coming out sooner rather than later that says Joe and Avram have effed off. That's the statement I want to see. Now, there is some news about Mason Greenwood basically leaving Manchester United. Has Mason Greenwood confirmed his exit out of United? We will get into that in just a second. I'm just looking through the chat as well. Any interesting things as well? Just diving into your comments here. Joel Glazer should be the one sack himself because of him and his brother. Man United's in ruins 100%. Why can't the Glazers sack themselves? I'm excited finally moving in the right direction, and I like this chat. This season's been very negative, and I try and be as positive as you can. You know me, I can sometimes be overly positive and defend players and defend our manager to the point where you guys are like, Alice, you're just defending pure mediocrity now. But I always like to see the best. I always like to be positive. And this season has had a lot of negatives, but I've got positive things to say. I've got a video coming out on the youth academy, the reconstructions, the rebuilds, the things that have been going on in the youth, which is a positive video. I don't know when I'm going to release that. Maybe I'll release it tonight. Maybe I'll release it tomorrow. I'm just going to see with the news. If there's a period where there's not much news on, I'm just going to release that video instead of the news video. But I think another element of positivity is Omar Barada's coming in, Jason Wilcock's coming in, and Dan Ashworth's coming in. We don't know when Dan Ashworth will be in, but we know Omar Barada and Jason Wilcock should be here by the end of the season. Bish, bash, bosh, brilliant. Murtough's gone, Arnold's gone. We're finally seeing those changes. Sometimes it's felt slow, sometimes it's felt delayed, but we're finally seeing those changes. And hopefully in the transfer window, we're going to see sale happen, or another sale happen, or another sale happen. In fact, Man United are finally having their clear out. They said they were going to have every transfer window for the last 10 years, but never had. Sale happening. Oh, Man United do a good deal. Oh, Man United have done a good deal for a good price. Oh, we've signed 4 or 5 players. I had not heard of that guy, but he looks like the right profile. Oh, this is good business. This is what we want to see. Will we see that? I don't know. Is that what I want to see? Absolutely as well. We do have a bit of transfer news and stuff to get into as well. I want to see the following: a proper scouting department and structure, a proper medical team with a club doctor, head physio, sports science, and dedicated fitness coaches, and a psychology department. David, you've hit the nail on the head. You're absolutely right as well. Man United needs 6 years to rebuild and to compete with Man City. Liverpool might even win their 21st EPL title. I don't think we need 6 years, but I do think 3 years. I think if we're sitting here next year and we're in fifth gets you in the Champions League. That's a positive, I guess. If we're sitting here next year and we're in 5th, I don't want anyone to be going, INEOS is a fraud, INEOS is a fraud. INEOS can't change United like that. INEOS are implementing the structure, and the structure INEOS are implementing put things in place to impact us in the long term. In 3 years' time is probably when we're going to be able to judge INEOS. Look at sort of needs. We've got to give it 3 years before we will see the effects of INEOS and its rebuild. I don't think it'll take as long as 6 years. I think if you can get this summer transfer window right and next summer transfer window right, I think you can almost challenge if you get 2 perfect transfer windows in a row. I think we can get this transfer window right, considering we've got a good base of the squad and we get a lot of players out. I think we can get to a point where we maybe have a season like Tottenham or maybe have a season like last season. Don't think we'd be in a title race. We can get the next summer transfer window right. I think you can get in the title race. Don't necessarily think we can win it. And there's that third transfer window where you can bosh. I think you can do it in 3 years. I don't think things take as long as 6 years, in my opinion. Is the stream quality right? I've just got a notification saying there's a bit as well. Darren Fletcher has to go. We must not hire United legend. Darren Fletcher's basically changing roles. It's nothing deep with Darren Fletcher. He's basically just changing roles, and he's doing more coaching work rather than making decisions, which I don't have a problem with, because he's got a good relationship with the academy, which is doing well. Sorry about a little bit of stream lag there. I hope it's sorted itself out as well. Hopefully it sorts itself out. But let's get into the Greenwood news. Oh no, that's not the Greenwood news. Is that the Greenwood news there? Let's get into the Greenwood news, because it's basically sort of been confirmed that almost Greenwood has said to representatives that he will leave United. Obviously, credible sources in and around United are saying the most likely outcome is that Greenwood will leave. We know that John Murtough has actually gone out and met representatives of loads of clubs in Europe to discuss Mason Greenwood. I'd assume that while INEOS haven't officially made a decision on Greenwood, the fact that they're sending Murtough out when he was here to meet representatives and discuss Greenwood, and that he'd be up for sale, the fact that, you know, Greenwood's briefing has now sort of basically said he's happy to stay in Spain because maybe he's been told by United he's not coming back. I think there is assumption that Greenwood will probably be sold. Also, because when you look at the Greenwood situation, it's pure FFP profit, because he's an academy player, and the better with the FFP, the more money we can spend elsewhere. So it said that Mason Greenwood is not too bothered about returning to England. He's very open to moving to another European league permanently. Juventus are keeping an eye on Greenwood, and Atletico Madrid are very interested in signing Greenwood. We now have all the sides. Atletico Madrid have had the most interest in Greenwood. I assume Greenwood leaves as well. There's going to be 30, 40 million maybe there, and then Man United can invest that in the rebuild going forward. While Greenwood can play right wing, while Greenwood can play striker, and while he's had a decent loan spell, it's quite a bit of a risk for United to bring him back, and I think INEOS won't want to see any kind of outrage. So I'd assume that while no decision is final on Greenwood, that he probably leaves. If we buy the right players and sell all the wrong players and back the manager, it will take us 3 years. 100%. Rebuilds can take 2, 3 years. Not 6 years if you do it right. The problem is Man United don't do it right. So then when it's a 3-year rebuild, because we do it wrong in the first transfer window, it becomes like a 5-year rebuild. Do you know what I mean? It's just what we're on about 11th year rebuild right now. It's an absolute joke as well. Man United need to get things right each summer and build themselves up. And hopefully this will be the beginning of summers where we actually get things right. Now we've got proper people in recruitment to hopefully make the difference and make the changes that need to be made as well. Do you think we can exchange Greenwood for Chisea? I'm not sure. I don't know if United want Chisea. I think the wingers United are looking at is Elise is who they really like. They like Neto. They like Bakayoko. They like Nico Williams. And I think there was a rumour linking us to Sule of Lech, who's Juventus player, who's going to be available for like 25 mil. Like, that could be a bargain. I can't lie. I think he's a baller. I don't think we're interested in like Leao and Chisea and a lot of those Italian wingers, to be honest. Bayern Munich would gladly hire Ten Hag to coach Harry Kane. But yeah, Bayern and if Ten Hag leaves Manchester United, people forget this, but Bayern and Ajax would bring Ten Hag back. Ten Hag isn't a bad manager. It feels right now when you watch United play, you think, what is Ten Hag doing? This football's awful. But we know at the end of the day, he's not a bad manager. We just know that he's not playing to his best capabilities. In terms of other exits, in terms of other news going in and about Manchester United as well, Chisea is too injury prone. I completely agree. I don't rate him that much, to be honest. I don't want him at United. In terms of other exits, news and reports around United, it said Rafael Varan and Casemiro are both expected to leave Manchester United this summer, and United are willing to offer Varan a new contract and reduced wages, but he's likely to depart. Now, this is interesting. Now, Peter Hall is a decent source of information. He's no Laurie Whitwell. He's no tier 1 source of information. But interestingly, they're saying that United are willing to offer Varan a new contract, but he's likely to depart. Because I've always got the impression that we're not willing to give Varan a new contract, but Varan has been willing to accept a new contract on reduced terms. Now then the tide is shifting, and I don't know if Man United's putting this news out as almost PR to try and make themselves look better, that they would offer Varan a reduced contract, but he wouldn't accept it. Because my feeling is, and what we've heard is that Man United will, you know, not give Varan a new contract, and Varan would have accepted reduced terms, and Varan wants to stay. That's what we've been hearing. Now they're trying to say, oh, you know, Varan won't accept a reduced contract, but we'd give him one. I don't know if that's PR. I don't know what's going on. I still think, you know, there's a lot of rumours about Varan leaving Manchester United, but I think you have to say nothing is set in stone, nothing is done, nothing is sorted. I think there's still time for lots of things and elements to change in this whole Rafael Varan situation, because I'm going to be honest with you, I think that his availability has been the best out of all our centre-backs this season, believe it or not, which shows how shocking the availability of the centre-backs have been. He's not even really, really old. He's still got, I think Varan's got another year left in him. He's 30. Obviously, he'll be 31 in April. I think Varan's got one more year left in him. I think he's been brilliant when he's played. I think considering how, you know, open the midfield's been, how much he's had to do, I think he's been brilliant. I'd keep him around for another year for experience because I think he's been good. I like Varan. If Casemiro and Varan go, that's a lot of wages. I understand Casemiro leaving because Casemiro's had a bad season and we're likely to get a big offer from Saudi for Casemiro. So you can cash in on Casemiro. Casemiro's had a bad season. Midfield, we need fresh legs and you're going to get money. Varan just leaves for free. Varan's had a good season, leaves for free. Casemiro's had a bad season, leaves for money. Do you know what I mean? Like, makes more sense to sell Casemiro than Varan, in my opinion. My only fear is we need to make sure we sign a DM, because Fabrizio Romano came out and said, oh, there's suggestions and feelings that, you know, one of Man United's priorities isn't midfield. Their priority is this position, this position, this position, and depending on the funds, they'll sign a midfielder. We need a 6. Our priority needs to be long-term Casemiro replacement. I'm sorry, it needs to be. And then we sign centre-backs, we sign wingers, we sign strikers, then maybe another midfielder. I think with Eriksen leaving, Casemiro leaving, Amrabat going, and I think McTominay, this is our last opportunity to cash in on him, pure FFP profit. I think we need to be signing 2-3 midfielders. You look at Liverpool, they lost Oxlade-Chamberlain, they lost Milner, they lost Keita, then Fabinho and Henderson, they got money for Saudi Arabia. They lost 5 midfielders, and they brought in Gravenberch, Endo, McAllister, Szoboszlai. They brought in 4. Why don't we do something like that? Why don't we sell 4, bring in 3? You know, we've been linked to Andre Fluminense. I don't think we'd get Jan Evers, but Andre Fluminense is 20 million. We'll go out and get, you know, Amadou Onana for 50 million or Mats Wiefer for 35 million. And Yusuf Fofana's 25 million. Thuram of Nice could be cheap because of a relationship with Nice. We could sell Eriksen Amrabat. Let's say McTominay, we get 30 million for McTominay. 30 million for Casemiro, that's 60 million. Then Eriksen you get 5 million for, and then obviously the wage is saved, and then you get Amrabat off, bish bash bosh. And then you go out and you get Andre for 20 million. You get Fofana for 25 million, who's been playing in Monaco. And then you go out and get your number 6 to play with Kobbie Mainoo and Amadou Onana or Wiefer. Yeah, that might be a 20 million net spend with 4 midfielders out and 3 in. And if I'm Man United, that's a priority. We're linked to so many 6s and there's so many out there who would improve us 100%. I'm a massive fan of Mats Wiefer, even though I haven't watched him play loads, but when I have watched him play, he just looks good. But I watched Amadou Onana in midfield for Belgium against England. I was really impressed with him. And I think when you look at Mainoo's strengths and Amadou Onana's strengths, I think Amadou Onana's strengths combat Mainoo's weaknesses. And I think that could be a really good pairing as well. Why don't INEOS make Erik ten Hag head coach and manager? Well, head coach is manager. Erik ten Hag will keep his job. Let's say Erik ten Hag keeps his job next season. He will then just have less power over sort of things like recruitment, and he'll have to spend more energy focusing more on just coaching the team and listening to INEOS's ideas, which reportedly ten Hag is willing to accept. Our centre-back next season must be Martinez, Todibo, Branthwaite and Kambwala. With this centre-back, we could play a high line. I agree they're good options for next season as well. Transfermarkt saying Varan has a contract till 2025. Have we triggered his clause? This is the thing. There's so much misinformation on this, but apparently not, because this obviously the Athletic said that he could leave for free, and the Athletic is probably who I'd listen to as well. I can see Kambwala the next Vidic. Kambwala's an absolute baller. Alice, we need Kambwala. More chance. He's a great player. He's everything: pace, power, intelligence. Not bad on the ball. He's very confident. Yeah, I did a video on Kambwala on my United analysis channel, and he's got everything. People forget this about Kambwala. He's still raw. There's going to be inconsistencies, but Manchester United signed Kambwala. Man United signed Kambwala for £3 million ish in 2020 as a 16-year-old. But he was basically capping France at international level, captaining France at international level, playing 2-3 year groups ahead of him. He was so highly rated when Man United brought Kambwala in. He was seen as the next big French centre-back, and France have some big centre-backs. And what Kambwala has is technical ability and athletic ability. He's physically strong, he's fast. There was times where Diaz and Nunes were in and ahead of him and he caught up with them. There was times he pushed Nunes off the ball. Diaz and Nunes are going to be probably 2 of the most difficult attackers you come against, and Kambwala dealt with that fine. He's a really, really good player, Kambwala. What I do want to do, there's a few other stories to get into here, but before I get into these stories, what I do want to do actually is show you this, if I have time, is talk about sort of Manchester United's future and where it could be going forward. So if we look at the lineup here, and if you look at what our future could hold, obviously it will be Onana in goal. I think Dalot will be in the long-term plan. I think Mainoo will be in the long-term plan. I know people won't like this, but Bruno will be in the long-term plan, and because he's a good player. Garnacho will be in the long-term plan, but I think Garnacho could be something like this. Garnacho will be in the long-term plan, and he'll switch between left and right wing. And I think Højlund will be in the long-term plan. And I think if Luke Shaw can stay fit, he would still start next season. And I think Martinez will probably be in the long-term plan. So if you look at United's sort of squad right now, and I think Camboire one that would be here. Camboire one that would be here. We're looking at sort of maybe what our long-term plan is. And then we'd have Garnacho. We'll put AG17/Ahmad. I can't be able to write Garnacho. I should write Garnacho, that would be confusing. You've got Garnacho here. These are the type of people I'd expect to see in United's long-term plan. I'd also put Mason Mount in here again, and I'd put him in backup for Maino. But then this is where, the question marks are. I'd say maybe a Nana is someone we're looking at bringing in. I'd be saying Elise is someone we're maybe looking at bringing in according to reports. We know that we're looking at Nice, so maybe Todibo. And then I think maybe someone like, I don't know if we'd play Todibo and Martinez together, but we'll do that for now just because of the lack of height. And then Braithwaite. And then I know that they want to bring in a left back that could play both sides, but I don't know who. They say they don't want to spend a lot of money, and maybe Wan-Bissaka stays as backup there. And then you question, and actually you could say question, and Amas is doing really well at the moment. He's been called up to the first team squad. And then you've got maybe Maino that can be back up here. And I think that's what United want to do. And then maybe a backup striker here. I mean, I would bring in Xerxes. And then if I'm United as well, I'd, put Maino. And then if I'm United, I would look at maybe someone like Andre. If I'm United, I think I'm looking at the rebuild as something sort of like this, if you can see that as well. Todibo is tall, just not good in the air. That's what I mean. I don't know if you would work with Martinez, but you've got Todibo, Camboire that can play right centre back, and Braithwaite that can play right centre back. You've got Martinez, Braithwaite, and Shaw that could play left centre back. Maybe a new fullback coming in that can play both sides, and Amas coming through. You've got Delo and Wan-Bissaka right now that could do a job at right back and maybe upgrade that next season. You've got Nana that could be the 6, but Maino can also fill in there if maybe we sign Andre from Fluminense and we drop Mount in a deep role, and we've got Bruno and Mount that can be a 10. You've got Elise with maybe Garnacho and Ahmad that can back up, and then you've got Garnacho with Rashford as backup, and then you've got Højlund with Xerxes backup, and then maybe that's something that INEOS are looking at doing. I don't know what the exact plan would be, but maybe that's something that INEOS will be looking at doing there as well. I do want to continue by getting into news because I've got quite a lot to get into as well. I just need to check something because Alice has a train to catch, so she doesn't want to be super late. Great. Cool. Let's get into the next story here. Maino and Neves would be brilliant, but I don't know. As they're quite similar, I think we'd need someone more physical. But Neves is so good that, again, I want him at Man United as well. So let's continue on. It was said Manchester United have made a return to Andre. That's why I included him in that lineup there. The club have sounded out and moved for João Gomes. The Red Devils have not yet offered a proposal for each player, but the Brazilian are concrete. Considering that Murtough could be sold, Amrabat and Eriksson will go, and Casemiro could go to Saudi, I expect United to hopefully be signing 2 midfielders. Someone like João Gomes and Andre that could play further forward, they seem to be looking at. And then maybe someone like an Amadou and Nana, Human, Weaver that could play further back with the physical flooring. It was also said in terms of incomings as well, and this isn't too much transfer related, but also transfer related. It said that former Liverpool sporting director Julian Ward is the front runner to become Manchester United's new head of recruitment, and it could potentially happen soon. And it was said that INEOS still want to bring in a head of recruitment at Manchester United. So that's 2 other stories coming in. Julian Ward and Dougie Freeman have been linked to United, but we haven't had anything really from Romano, Ornstein or Whitwell. But it's definitely something that United have looked at, and I do think now that Wilcox is almost over the line and Omar Barada's over the line and Murtough is gone. And I would expect in the coming weeks maybe some updates on Julian Ward, Friedman, but also we will also link to the guy that's at Sporting Lisbon that's done a really good job, because Sporting Lisbon's recruitment has been unbelievable. You know, Jokeres, Premier League club, sniffed at that as well. I forgot his name, is it Vita or something? So there's definitely a few names to listen out for, but nothing concrete with that. And then manager news, again, they're just saying, look, if Ten Hag has gone, De Zerbi's on the list. I'd assume if they do sack Ten Hag, De Zerbi's the realistic first choice. Amarin to Liverpool's basically done. I don't know if they'll go for Tuchel. Zidane wouldn't come to United. And there's a couple other names about, but I think De Zerbi, considering Omar Barada wanted him, considering his relationship with Ashworth, I think De Zerbi's one they'd look at. Apparently, Nagelsmann would be interested in United, but he's happy in Germany right now and he's not in a rush. And I don't think, from what I'm hearing, that United are that bothered about Nagelsmann. Obviously, United are sticking with Ten Hag for now and planning next season with Ten Hag. But there's sort of reports and suggestions that United aren't too bothered about Nagelsmann, or I think De Zerbi's, who INEOS value higher. And I think a lot of people would probably prefer Nagelsmann, but that's sort of the suggestion going on there. One of these last stories goes out and says that INEOS are exploring business that can be done between Manchester United and Nice ahead of the summer transfer window. Sergeant Ratcliffe's company controls a majority stake in both clubs, and he could look to form a multi-club network with Manchester United at the helm. A similar strategy has been employed at Man City, who spearheaded the City Football Group, now own 13 different clubs. They're saying, basically, again, another report that United wants to establish a good relationship with Nice and maybe do business between the two clubs. Most important is we need actual recruitment execs done with summer approaching. 100%. I don't want to be interested FC. I don't want to be monitoring FC. I want to be Man United going out there signing players early FC, because Euros inflates prices as well. Euros inflates prices. There was a link about us looking at Thiago Motta, but it didn't come from anyone credible. 2 centre-backs, 2 DMs, 2 centre-forwards, 1 left-back, 1 right-back. Well, 1 centre-forward, 1 right-winger. But yeah, I agree with that. 100%. Serbi would be a fool to come here. Any manager would. De Zerbi, please know we'd be getting bottled 4 or 5-0. I think De Zerbi is a good manager, but I would like to see him take a stepping stone between Man United and Brighton, like an Aston Villa, and then if he did a good job at an Aston Villa, go to United, or he'd go to a Dortmund and then go to United. I don't want to. Yeah, I think Brighton to United, such a jump as good as he's been. I saw reports that Newcastle need to sell due to FFP. Could we make advantage of that? Potentially with Dan Ashworth. I don't know if Dan Ashworth will be done by the summer. There's a feeling that he won't be, but I think there's more and more pressure coming in on Newcastle to lower the price, and I think we could get advancements soon. I think Barada and Wilcox will be in. I think Dan Ashworth's got a question mark as well. But yeah, listen, people, I've got to wrap up today's show because I've got a train to catch. But please do hit that like button if you're new. Subscribe down below if you're new. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the stream. I'm sorry my streams are 30 minutes. I try and make them 40 to 45 minutes. A bit shorter than normal, but big up everyone for tuning in. Speaking really fast now. See you next time. Bye.